The story begins with Vusal, the ideal student. He had top grades, was unfailingly polite, and was the school's favorite. Everything was perfect until a transfer student, Seok-chan, arrived. The teacher introduced him as the national high school boxing champion. The class erupted in applause, but Vusal's face went white as if he'd seen a ghost. The moment the teacher left, Seok-chan beat up the biggest bully in the class, immediately establishing his dominance. He then walked straight to Vusal, touched his cheek, and spoke to him like an old acquaintance. A class leader tried to intervene, but Seok-chan cared nothing for manners, even towards girls. Vusal quietly grabbed his hand, pleading for him to stop, which only infuriated Seok-chan. "Did you forget the lesson from middle school?" Seok-chan was the nightmare shadow who had tormented Vusal during his middle school years. Every time Vusal sought help from a teacher, the bullying got worse, and now that fear had returned. Vusal collapsed in pain, but his eyes fell on a pen. With trembling hands, he picked it up. Seok-chan laughed, taunting him as a coward, then grabbed Vusal's hand and pointed the pen toward his own eye, challenging him. "Go on, stab me." Years of fear, anger, and humiliation erupted. Without thinking, Vusal plunged the pen forward. The class froze in shock. Seok-chan screamed, blood pouring from his eye. Because Vusal intentionally used a weapon, blinding Seok-chan in one eye, the court did not rule it self-defense. His mother wept, and Vusal, who had fought back for the first time in his life, was forced to pay the price of his promising future. On the bus to the juvenile detention center, no one dared look at the quiet boy in the back seat. Vusal's spot was taken by a blonde kid, forcing him to sit next to a dangerous-looking man named Do-yeon. Upon arrival, the guards confiscated their belongings. Inside, Vusal met Hanmin, who asked what he was in for. Vusal quietly replied, "Attempted murder." Everyone was stunned. Hanmin quickly apologized, lying that his own charge was similar, only to admit later it was just petty theft. A senior inmate explained the rules. Rank is determined by fists. If you can't fight, disappear or you'll be crushed. The facility was divided into 3 factions: Sanghyub, a former world judo champion with unparalleled skill; Wonjun, a man who turned into a devil when enraged; and Sunjeong, who looked small but could shatter anyone. To gain power, Wonjun and Sunjeong plotted together, staging a fight to frame Sanghyub for assault and stealing contraband. Sanghyub was sent to solitary confinement, leaving power split between the remaining 2. But the real master of the prison, the one no one dared challenge, was Do-yeon. Do-yeon was the man Vusal sat next to on the bus, the world's youngest MMA world champion, whom the foreign media had dubbed in Übermensch. One day, Do-yeon returned home with a cake and flowers for his sister's birthday. As he opened the fridge, his hand was covered in blood. Frantically, he searched the house and found his sister on the floor, soaked in blood. An assailant grabbed his neck from behind. Do-yeon snapped the attacker's leg instantly. Seeing his sister's body, he exploded, beating one attacker unconscious and taking down a third who tried to sneak attack him. All 3 armed robbers were killed, and Do-yeon was sent to prison for excessive self-defense. Vusal worried about his survival in this terrifying place. During a football match, a player was injured and Vusal was forced to substitute. He kicked the ball, which accidentally hit Wonjun. Sunjeong laughed, "You're done for." Some inmates started dragging Vusal to a corner, the familiar terror resurfacing. Just then, Do-yeon walked by. Vusal grabbed his last hope, broke free, and begged for help. Wonjun was hesitant around Do-yeon but told him to stay out of it. Do-yeon paused, then decided to save the helpless boy. Wonjun taunted Do-yeon, calling him a killer pretending to be a good person, and attacked. Do-yeon dodged every blow and flattened him with a single punch. Vusal gazed at his protector with awe. Wonjun immediately put Vusal on his hit list. As Vusal searched for a way out, he received an unwelcome visitor, Seok-chan. His right eye was gone and his boxing career was over. Seok-chan snarled, "I wait for you every day. When you get out, your real hell begins." Vusal trembled and begged for mercy, but Seok-chan refused. The following days were a living nightmare. Wonjun's threats chased him by day, and Seok-chan's terrifying face haunted his nights. One day, Vusal saw Do-yeon training and a ray of hope ignited. He started visiting Do-yeon daily, bringing a bottle of milk. Do-yeon initially thought he was a flatterer and told him to stay away, but Vusal kept coming, finally gathering the courage to ask, "Train me, I want to be strong like you." Do-yeon refused, saying revenge wasn't the right path. Vusal insisted, "I just want a normal life." He confessed that he always ran away because he hated being weak, hated his poverty, and even hated himself, feeling his birth was a mistake, but he would run no more. Do-yeon was moved by Vusal's sincerity and agreed on one condition. Vusal had to run 100 laps in 40 minutes. The moment Do-yeon yelled start, Vusal ran. Soon he was panting, his vision blurring, his legs giving out, but he didn't stop. The memories of humiliation fueled him. This was his only chance to change his fate. By the 70th lap, Vusal was broken. He fell, threw up, and was ready to give up. Do-yeon even told him to stop, but remembering his weak, cowardly past, Vusal got back up. He roared like a wounded lion, pouring his last strength into the run until he collapsed unconscious. He failed the test, but Do-yeon accepted him as his student. Using his connections, Do-yeon had Vusal moved to his cell. On the first day, the fitness test was disastrous. Do-yeon sighed as Vusal couldn't even manage a single pull-up. With Do-yeon's help, Vusal completed his first pull-up. His brutal training began. In the early days, his limbs would go numb and he'd collapse after a few push-ups, but he pushed his limits every day. He even ate his meals as part of his training, visualizing himself swallowing fire to gain strength. Day by day, his fists hardened, his muscles grew, and one day he snapped a resistance band. When the time was right, Do-yeon taught him real fighting skills, how to strike and how to take a hit. Slowly, the fearful Vyusal became a fighter who shocked the other inmates. Meanwhile, Seok-chan roamed the streets outside. A car honked and two men yelled, "Are you blind?" That single word, blind, pierced Seok-chan's heart. He smashed the car's side mirror and beat up the two rude men. A gang leader, Woo-young, witnessed the natural fighting skill and offered Seok-chan a place in his gang. Seok-chan wasn't interested until Woo-young pointed to his right eye and said, "I can fix that and make you even stronger." Seok-chan hesitated. Back in prison, Vyusal was sitting in a horse stance studying. Haemin asked why he was being so extra. Vyusal said he just wanted to be strong, but now he was enjoying it. Haemin then broke the bad news. Do-yeon was over 21 and would be transferred to an adult prison. Vyusal's focus wavered. Do-yeon shook him, reminding him to train with everything he had for the time they had left. One day, Vyusal saw Haemin being harassed. He jumped in and saved his friend. The bullies attacked in a mob, but Vyusal was no longer the weak kid. He overpowered them all. When Wonjun heard his men were defeated, his blood boiled. He summoned Vyusal to the workshop to settle the score. Vyusal apologized, explaining he was only defending his friend. Wonjun ignored him and struck Vyusal's head. Vyusal dodged the next attack and instinctively landed a fierce punch. Everyone was stunned. Enraged, Wonjun attacked like a wild animal and slammed Vyusal to the ground. Vyusal immediately got up. His punches barely fazed Wonjun, but Wonjun's blows rained down like hammers. Vyusal slowly retreated, collapsing in pain, but to everyone's surprise, he got back up. This time his eyes held passion, not fear. He unleashed a flurry of punches on Wonjun's face until the bully passed out. In that critical moment, Do-yeon intervened, stopping Vyusal from crossing the line, fearing his protege would follow his own dark path. Outside, Seok-chan had become completely ruthless, hardened by daily street fights. Woo-young now trusted him completely as his most reliable killer. The next day, Do-yeon made Vyusal a special lunch and the two had their first real sparring match. Do-yeon quickly realized Vyusal was holding back. He snapped, "Fight with all your strength." This time Vyusal fought with everything he had, but his final punch stopped an inch short. Do-yeon warned him that such hesitation in a real fight would mean a knockout. Despite the warning, pride was evident on Do-yeon's face. Vyusal had exceeded his expectations. He declared Vyusal's training complete. The truth was, Do-yeon was being transferred to the adult prison that very day. His parting words to Vyusal, "A shark doesn't have a swim bladder. If it stops swimming, it drowns. Never stop." After Do-yeon left, Vyusal couldn't hold back his tears. His heart felt empty, an emptiness he filled only through non-stop training. Do-yeon, boarding the bus, looked back at the prison one last time. An ex-convict working for Seok-chan bragged about how strong Do-yeon's training had made Vyusal. Seok-chan only offered a cold, dangerous smile. The next day he returned to the prison. "You're working out for what?" Vyusal simply taunted him. "You're still the same." Seok-chan retorted, "I'll be waiting for you when you get out." A few days later, Sang-hyub was released from solitary. Vyusal was also moved back to his old cell. Sang-hyub asked Vyusal if he wanted to take his place. Vyusal coolly replied, "I have no interest," surprising Sang-hyub, who had heard Vyusal was now a fighting fanatic. During cleaning duty, Sunjeong openly challenged Vyusal. "If you win, I'll do whatever you say." Vyusal's only condition, "Stop bothering others." Sunjeong agreed. On the day of the duel, Vyusal was missing. Sunjeong mocked him as a coward. Seeing this, Sang-hyub gave an emotional speech. "Fighting only brings punishment and pain. Nothing changes. We don't have to live as trash anymore." Just then Vyusal arrived. Sunjeong attacked instantly. His movements were fast, his punches wild, and Vyusal struggled to respond. Sunjeong was confident of victory, but Vyusal suddenly got back up, grabbed Sunjeong's leg and struck his thigh. He then flipped the match with a chokehold. Vyusal won and became the new top dog of the prison. With his mediation, Wonjun and Sunjeong promised to end all violence and bullying. Peace finally returned to the prison. The former enemies became friends. Sunjeong even taught Vyusal all his kicking techniques. In the adult prison, Do-yeon began a new life, a void in his heart for his first student. Vyusal was granted early release for good behavior. Before leaving, he visited the training yard one last time, cherishing the moments with Do-yeon. He left the prison with a grateful heart, but a new storm immediately gathered. Seok-chan appeared, trying to humiliate him with a customary block of tofu for fresh releases. Vyusal ignored the childish act and their final fight began. Seok-chan used his experience, landing a relentless barrage of attacks, treating Vyusal like a punching bag. He even taunted Vyusal about his mother begging like a dog. Vyusal's blood boiled. He retaliated with a fierce punch. Seok-chan lost control, raining down continuous blows on Vyusal's head and stomach. Vyusal fell, spitting up blood when Do-yeon's words echoed in his mind, "A shark never stops or it drowns." Vyusal's fighting spirit reignited. They exchanged frantic blows. Vyusal used the boxing techniques Do-yeon taught him, landing a punch directly on Seok-chan's eyebrow. A fuming Seok-chan attacked recklessly. Vyusal seized the moment, using Sunjeong's kicking technique, precise, fast, and devastating. Seok-chan was stunned, unable to believe the boy he tormented had become so strong. The fight wasn't about power anymore but will, and Vyusal was indomitable. Seok-chan finally admitted defeat. As Vyusal walked away, Seok-chan's face showed not just defeat but deep frustration. Later, Vyusal visited Do-yeon in prison. They were genuinely happy to see each other. Hesitantly, Vyusal asked, "Have you ever seen a real shark? I went to an aquarium but it was barely moving. You said they never stop." Do-yeon immediately replied, "It must have been dead." They laughed from the heart at the absurd answer. 6 months passed. Life outside prison was hard. Vyusal faced constant discrimination due to his criminal record, but his prison friends stood by him. Sunjeong ran a food truck. Wonjun worked at a construction site and studied in his free time. Sanghyub returned to the gym, missing his competitive life, and Vyusal trained every day, never stopping. One day, Vyusal visited Do-yeon again with good news. He got a part-time job at a gym. His living expenses were covered, and most importantly, he could continue his training. The path to becoming a boxer was tough, but a shark never stops. Do-yeon was still worried. Even though Vyusal beat Seok-chan, trouble would follow him. Do-yeon constantly warned him, "Be careful, don't let your anger make you make a mistake." Vyusal quietly nodded. Do-yeon finished, "Now that you've chosen your path, follow it with all your heart." Vyusal returned to the gym and doubled his efforts. He truly valued this opportunity. At the gym, a coach was beaten up by a professional boxer. The arrogant boxer Oval asked who the new punching bag was. The tired coach pointed to Vyusal. Oval, intrigued by the ex-con, taunted him, "If you win, maybe the coach will make you a real fighter." Vyusal immediately agreed, wearing only gloves while Oval put on full gear, a perceived insult. An enraged Oval launched a fierce attack. Vyusal covered his head and stayed defensive. Seizing a momentary opening, he hit Oval's arm with a powerful punch. Oval screamed and collapsed, clutching his arm. The gym owner was furious because Oval had an illegal fight that night called The Fog, live-streamed on a private app for VIP high-stakes betting. Oval was one of their main fighters, supposed to face a tank-like opponent. With Oval out, the organizers frantically looked for a substitute and announced the rules would be waived, offering a tenfold prize for anyone who stepped in. The VIPs were thrilled. The ring entrance was made by Wooyoung, the insane gang leader. To make it fair, a new rule: if the tank could survive for 30 seconds, he would win. The crowd went wild, betting heavily on Wooyoung. In the ring, Wooyoung told the tank not to be scared. "If you land a punch, I'll pay all your debts." The fight began. The tank was overwhelmed. One kick, one punch, and the tank was out in 10 seconds, but Wooyoung didn't stop. He broke the tank's leg. That night, Vyusal met Wonjun on his way home. Wonjun was giving money to a man with a cane, his eyes cast down in shame. This was a man Wonjun had severely bullied in school, leaving him with a permanent leg injury. Wonjun was now a changed man, atoning for his sins. Vyusal said hello, and Wonjun coolly started a conversation. Vyusal mentioned nearly getting fired from the gym. Wonjun sighed, "Life is truly difficult." But Vyusal smiled, "I chose this path myself. No matter how many setbacks, I won't stop." Wonjun was inspired. They then joined Sunjeong at his food truck. Wonjun, as always, ate for free. They exchanged jokes and teased each other, a true friendship forged in hardship. Jihai, Wonjun's tutor, joined them, and the four toasted to a better tomorrow. Sunjeong noticed Vyusal frequently looking at Jihai, a clear crush. Just then, a luxury car screeched to a halt. The driver was Wooyoung. He skipped the small talk and offered Vyusal the honor of working for him. 3 hours earlier, Wooyoung had sent his men to find the missing Oval. On a cruise ship, they found Oval wounded and kneeling. Hannon reported that Oval fled the fight due to a wrist injury caused by a cleaner named Vyusal. Wooyoung, impressed by Vyusal's strength and audacity, ordered Oval to choose his girlfriend or his manager. Oval chose his manager, who was also his cousin. Wooyoung said, "If your manager doesn't speak for 10 seconds, you're free." But before he could finish, the manager screamed. Wooyoung ignored the pleas and threw all three into the ocean. Cannon reported that Vyusal was the one who blinded Seok-chan. Even more impressed, Wooyoung went directly to Vyusal with a big offer. Vyusal refused without a second thought. "I am not Seok-chan." Wooyoung was stunned. No one ever said no to him. He resorted to a dirty trick. The next day, Jihai was on a video call with Vyusal when she saw a pregnant woman struggling. She cut the call and rushed to help. As she put the woman's belongings in a van, the woman lit a cigarette and asked, "Are you Jihai?" Before Jihai could react, a man grabbed her and dragged her into a mental hospital ambulance. Ms. Park, the fake pregnant woman, joined them and removed her fake belly. Jihai tried to escape, hitting the man with an oxygen tank, but the door was locked. Ms. Park kicked her violently, knocking her out. Vyusal, training with Sanghyub, was watching the call when Jihai looked terrified, fighting someone. He called back, but no one answered. He realized it was Wooyoung. Vyusal lost control, desperate for revenge. Wonjun stopped him. "Calm down, that's exactly what he wants, for you to go crazy." Sanghyub called the police, but without evidence they were helpless. Vyusal received a text message, an address for a construction site. The four friends piled into an old truck and searched the area. Jihai was nowhere. Vyusal found a keychain on the ground. He called Jihai's phone and the ringtone echoed from a nearby secluded building. He ran inside. Two men had Jihai tied up, about to harm her, when Vyusal and Wonjun burst in. Vyusal knocked out both guards with 2 punches and quickly untied Jihai. But Jihai screamed, "Run, Vyusal!" The phone rang again. More thugs swarmed in. Ms. Park had used Jihai's phone to lure Vyusal to the site. Overwhelmed, they were blindfolded and dragged into a van. Sunjeong and Sanghyub, seeing the van leave, chased after it. Inside the van, Vyusal passed out from shock. When he woke up, he was tied to a chair. He asked Wooyoung where his friends were. Wooyoung ignored him, telling him a story about child soldiers in Africa blindfolding children, giving them guns and ordering them to shoot. When the blindfolds came off, a dead person lay before them, a trauma that broke them into total obedience. Wooyoung then offered a choice: Jihai dies or Wonjun dies. Vyusal begged them to leave his friends alone. Wooyoung, bored, left Ms. Park in charge. If Vyusal doesn't choose, both die. The psycho Ms. Park enjoyed the brutality. She ordered everything to be recorded and gave Vyusal 10 seconds. Vyusal screamed, "I'll kill you," but it had no effect. Broken, he cried out, "Wonjun, what should I do?" As the time ran out, Ms. Park thought he chose Wonjun and lunged with a knife. Luckily, the knife only cut Wonjun's ropes. Wonjun grabbed Ms. Park's hand and slammed her to the ground. He quickly took down 2 guards. Ms. Park attacked again, but Wonjun blocked the knife and slammed her hard. He freed everyone and they ran downstairs. Ms. Park recovered and ordered hundreds of guards to the scene. With enemies ahead and behind, Wonjun stayed back so Vyusal and Jihai could escape. But enemies blocked the front. Vyusal fought but fell down the stairs. Wonjun rushed back to help but was slammed against a wall by a guard. Vyusal was about to lose consciousness when Jihai grabbed a fire extinguisher and hit the guard, giving Vyusal a chance to fight back. More guards arrived. Despite bleeding from his stomach, Wonjun held his ground so his friends could flee. Vyusal and Jihai reached the parking lot, blocked by bodyguards. Then came the grand entrance of Sunjeong and Sanghyub. They tore through the guards like a WWE tag team. In seconds, the enemies were on the ground. The 4 friends ran back to find Wonjun, only to find him alone, having already defeated everyone. "You guys are too slow," he joked. Vyusal supported him, urging him to shut up and stay alive, but Wonjun was severely injured. He took a notebook from his pocket, listing the names of those he bullied. "Please apologize for me," he told Vyusal. Vyusal refused. "You stay alive and apologize yourself." Wonjun promised, "I won't die like trash," but it was too late. Vyusal screamed. Memories of their friendship, laughter, fights, and companionship flooded his mind. Vyusal blamed himself, believing it was all his fault. At the funeral, Vyusal was filled with guilt, staring at Wonjun's photo. A woman approached and slapped him hard. "Where were you when my brother was dying?" It was Yeonjun, Wonjun's sister. Vyusal could only apologize, but Yeonjun didn't want an apology. She wanted her brother back. Vyusal couldn't forgive himself, regretting turning down Wooyoung's offer. "If I hadn't been here, Wonjun would be alive." Sunjeong's patience broke. "It's not your fault. Because of you, he felt like a human for the first time. His life was trash before." He revealed that Vyusal helped Wonjun pass his high school equivalency test and apologized to the people he hurt. Sunjeong insisted, "If you keep blaming yourself, Wonjun's soul will never rest." Yeonjun realized the depth of the bond between her brother and Vyusal. Jihai was on the phone with her mother when a man with a scarred face bumped into her. Suspicious, she ended the call and followed him. The man met with the police officer investigating Wonjun's case, forcing him to take a call from Cannon. Cannon offered a huge bribe to frame someone else for the murder. Jihai witnessed everything and reported it immediately. Wooyoung, meanwhile, sent a mocking funeral wreath that read, "The story was left unfinished, let's complete it." Sunjeong flew into a rage, smashing the wreath and cursing the police as useless. Sanghyub calmed him, agreeing they needed a plan, not rage. Vyusal silently read Wonjun's notebook. On the last page was one name, Vyusal. He finally understood what Wonjun meant that day: forgiveness. Vyusal clutched the notebook. His mind was made up. The man who killed his friend would not be spared, but this time every move would be calculated. Then came a surprise: Yeonjun wanted to join them. To prove herself, she easily took down the 3 boys. A powerful new member joined the team for revenge. They looked at Wonjun's photo, resolved for a life-or-death fight. Their first target was evidence. Jihai remembered Wooyoung ordered Ms. Park to record everything. Vyusal had an idea. Yeonjun, disguised as a delivery woman, went to Wooyoung's headquarters with a package Vyusal had fitted with secret cameras. Security was tight, so Vyusal put Wooyoung's own business card on the package. The guards thought it was important and delivered it straight to the streaming room. The camera feed gave the team a rough map of the building. Once the target was confirmed, the team went into action. Sunjeong drove a van straight into the underground parking garage. When the guards saw the suspicious van on camera, they went to check, only to find it empty, emitting strange sounds. Suddenly, the microwave inside exploded, triggering the fire alarm. Panic erupted. Everyone rushed to the parking lot, unaware it was a trap. The team was already inside and a massive fight began. Outnumbered, the team still held their ground. They split into 2 groups, one to hold the line, the other to focus on the objective, winning fast. When all the guards were down, Vyusal ran to the live broadcast room for the evidence while the rest stayed in the lobby. Vyusal found the technician and forced him to open the files, but the folder was deleted. Wooyoung, watching all this on a monitor, was shocked by Vyusal's performance. As Vyusal returned to the lobby, Wooyoung played the footage of Wonjun stabbing on the screen. Vyusal's screams of pain echoed through the building. Everyone's blood boiled. Cannon arrived with his backup. Wooyoung spoke over the speaker, "If you want the video, come and get it." Vyusal pushed through the crowd toward the elevator. Cannon ordered his men to clear the parking lot. Cannon, Ms. Park, and Scar were the only ones left to fight the team. When Yeonjun learned Ms. Park stabbed her brother, she charged at her. Sanghyub faced Cannon and Sunjeong prepared to fight Scar. In the elevator, Vyusal unwrapped his hand, ready for the final fight. Watching the video on the screen, Vyusal's anger peaked. Wooyoung offered 2 options: take the video and leave, or play a game with him. Vusal grabbed the USB without a word, but Wooyoung wasn't done. He muttered, "Who's next? Family, friends, family is more fun." Vusal snapped. He punched, but Wooyoung dodged every blow, mocking him like a dog and slapping him. Wooyoung's attacks grew more brutal. The fight in the hall also intensified. Sanghyub and Kanon were evenly matched, but Sunjeong was overpowered by Scar's unpredictable moves, breaking his leg. Yeonjun thrashed Ms. Park, avenging her brother, but rushed to save Sunjeong when she saw he was in danger. Vusal rose again but was knocked down. Wooyoung calmly sipped his drink, then delivered a kick that shattered the glass window. Bored, he walked to the ring, repeatedly playing the video of Wonjun being stabbed. Vusal was broken. He roared and ran at the monster again. Wooyoung grabbed his neck, forcing his face to the screen. Yeonjun and Sanghyub, surrounded by enemies, saw only Wonjun's face. In that moment, Vusal's mind cleared. He broke free and attacked with full force. Wooyoung was genuinely excited to be in a real fight. Vusal slowly gained the upper hand, but when he had a chance to break Wooyoung's leg, he hesitated. He refused to cross that line. Instead, he unleashed his rage onto Wooyoung's face, landing a powerful punch and slamming him into the ring glass. Elsewhere, Yeonjun was struggling, her hand broken by Scar. Sunjeong suddenly appeared and choked Scar, allowing Yeonjun to finish him off. Sanghyub defeated Kanon with sheer willpower. All three were severely injured but had completed their mission. Wooyoung got up one last time and charged Vusal, but Vusal spared no effort this time, breaking Wooyoung's arm. Exhausted, Wooyoung roared and ran at Vusal, trying to push him out the window. Vusal held onto the window frame, leaving Wooyoung dangling over the edge. Wooyoung screamed for Vusal to let go. Vusal had the chance for revenge, but he refused to become a beast like Wooyoung. He pulled Wooyoung back up. Wooyoung laughed, "You'll regret this." Vusal simply said, "I am different from you," and walked away. Wooyoung realized he was completely defeated. Wooyoung was soon arrested for illegal gambling and multiple murders. Vusal then visited everyone in Wonjun's notebook, apologizing on Wonjun's behalf. Not everyone forgave him, but Vusal kept his promise. When he reached the last page where his own name was written, he wrote "Forgiven" next to it. "I forgave you a long time ago, Wonjun," he said. Sometime later, Vusal visited Do-yeon in prison. He told him he knew what he wanted to be, a powerful boxer like Do-yeon. Do-yeon smiled, nodding, "Then you need to train even harder." The World Rookie Championship was approaching, and Vusal and his friends trained day and night. They weren't fighting just to survive anymore, they were fighting for their passion. Karma caught up with Wooyoung, who was sentenced to prison. Ironically, his new cellmate was Do-yeon. Their eyes met and they shared a cold smile. The story of Vusal and his friends ends here, as they not only fought their scars but learned to forgive themselves.